My name's Paul, welcome to Paul Perambulates. In this episode I'm in South Wales, in the Bannau Brycheiniog, exploring the Llangynidr and Llangattock areas. My start point is the Llangynidr Moor car park, postcode NP81LN, grid reference SO15681707. What 3 words? Entrust, gather, disprove. I head southwest past the Llangynidr Nature Reserve. Then I drop into Llangynidr itself and follow the stream, Llangynidr, all the way up westward to the top of Llangynidr Moor. There I visit the high point, cairn, and then I head eastward for some history at Chartist Cave. I continue eastward along a long stretch of the Cambrian Way, past plenty of shake holes. I cross to Llangattock Moor and visit the Llangynidr swallow hole, one of the largest in the area. From there, it's a short hop northward back to the car park. Total distance 11.7 kilometres. Total height gain 388 metres. Total walking time 3 hours and 42 minutes. Llangynidr Moor car park. It's just a patch of gravel off the side of the road really, so obviously free, no gates. What it does have is possibly the best view of any car park in the Beacons, looking right across the Black Mountains. Immediately you set off on this walk, provided you've got a decent day visibility wise, you're getting fabulous views of the eastern and central Bannau Brycheiniog. I know this area extremely well because we bring the scouts here every February for 10 tours training. There are a number of reasons why we do that. It's because it's featureless, difficult to navigate around, so good practice for them. It attracts quite bad weather, so it challenges them in that way. The other feature of it is there are no great big precipices that you can fall off. It has a reputation among the scouts. Every year it's, oh no, Llangattock, why do we have to go there? However, a very good hill walking friend of mine, a fellow scout walking leader, tells me that there's a good walk to be had out of Llangattock, and from what I've seen of it over the years, I'm inclined to agree with him. So if you're watching, Jake, this one's for you. I'm going to prove you right. One of the first things we see, forested area, Llangynidr Nature Reserve. Managed by a trust in conjunction with the Forestry Commission. It is both a working forest and a nature reserve. I'm going to skirt around the top of it. There is a track goes right through the middle of it if you're interested in walking through there. The trust's website says that the reserve contains a mix of ash and alder trees. That's not what I'm seeing here. Certainly on this edge it's entirely coniferous. The walking along here is not absolutely simple. It's on a bit of an incline, it's quite rocky, very uneven. One of the many things the scouts complain about when we come here, how difficult it is underfoot. It gets way more difficult though, as we will see later. As the path goes along, a little bit of a drop to your right, nothing too much to worry about. But if you're unsteady on your feet, you might want to consider whether it's too risky. The safer alternative, of course, would be to drop down and take the path directly through the forest that I mentioned earlier. Coming past the end of the nature reserve now, we can see the valley, Cwm Claisffer, which I'm going to be walking up shortly. And down at the bottom there, my next destination, the filter house. It's a pretty steep drop down to the filter house, so I'll get my poles out for that. Worth losing the height though, for what we get when we arrive. Here is the filter house, not the most prepossessing bit of architecture I've ever laid eyes on, but what it does offer us is a nice simple way across the stream. And here is the stream, Nant Claisffer. Not too busy today because it's the middle of summer. And unfortunately the filter house machinery is going over it as well. The map shows the path going up to the left of the stream. We've always found a better path going up to the right, but either way it's very, very rough. But you do have that lovely sound to accompany you. One problem that we don't have when we come in February, and that we very much do have now in the middle of summer, is overgrowth. It's just ferns here, but I've just pushed through a rather nasty patch of gorse. It has in fact been such a battle getting through all that. I think I'm going to cross the stream here and try the other side, because from here it does look easier, and that's because of summer, because of the overgrowth. And it turned out not to be so easy that side either, so I've decided to cross back over and then climb straight up the side of the valley. That's a bit of a first time I've ever wanted to get away from the sound of running water, not because of the sound, but because it was extremely difficult to fight my way up either bank of Cwm Claisffer. So I pushed straight up through all the bracken, steeply uphill, not fun, but there's a path running along the top of the side of the valley here, and I'm on that now, I'm pretty sure, so it should be easier from here. What I've just done is battled my way up from the stream through all that. That path does eventually close in further up the valley. You're back by the stream again, but by now you're above the point where the ferns stop growing. There's a lovely sounding waterfall just here, and a nice simple stream crossing. But we're not done with the stream yet, and we're going to follow Llangattock all the way up. Climbed up on one of the banks running alongside the stream now and have a lovely view back down the valley. The stream is gurgling away there below me, and I will be following it right the way to the top of the valley up there. The walk in is a bit easier as I get further up the valley. There is a path, albeit it's a very rough one, but it's there. The character of the landscape changes slightly as we get higher up the valley. More erosion up here, so we get a few rocky outcrops, most likely sandstone. I've dropped back down right by the stream here, which is beautiful at this point. Lots of reddish rocks on a bed of sand. Starting to see some shake holes now, but we'll be seeing some much bigger ones later, so I'll go into detail about them when we get to those. Coming up now on what looks to be a very small cairn on a local top at the top of the valley. It is on the map though, and behind it, quite magnificent view. Looking away towards the western end of the beacons, the distinctive tops of Corndee and Penavan there. And then some quite fabulous scenery coming round to the west. And this is how we know we're in the Bannau Brycheiniog. I've now completed the long westward climb all the way up Llangynidr, and I'm going to be turning, go southward to my next destination. Quite a picturesque scene here. Ponies next to some crags. This is Cairn, which, in that wonderful way that Welsh place names have of being incredibly prosaic when translated into English, means big cairn. And it is big. 20 metres in diameter, 2.5 metres tall. It is a Bronze Age burial cairn. All the more impressive for having been constructed at that point in history with the limited means they had to do it. It's actually hollow in the top, so it could be used as a shelter. Well, somebody has built another shelter on the side down here. There's another one further round as well. Must have been a burial cairn for somebody extremely important, because the view from it is absolutely fabulous. Not very far away, Llangynidr and Llangattock, big cairn lake, not as big as usual, very dried up because it's been a very dry year. Heading away from Garnfarr, going back eastwards, the walking gets a lot easier. One of the beacon's longest paths, the Cambrian Way, cuts right across Llangynidr, and I'll be following that for a while now. It's a nice, wide, well-worn path, much easier walking than it's been up to now. Arriving now at one of the most interesting points on the route. Llangyanidr, Big Cave, but more commonly known as Chartist Cave. The local rock is a layer of sandstone on top of limestone, and what's happened here is that the limestone underneath has eroded away, whereas the sandstone is a bit more durable, so it now forms the roof of the cave. In 1969 to 70, the Severn Valley Caving Club discovered a lower chamber, stretching some 440 metres, with passages off it. The chances of me going in and looking for that, obviously, are nil. The immediate interior of the cave, though, is certainly useful shelter on a bad weather day, of which you get plenty around here. I've lost count of the number of teams of scouts I've accompanied who've taken very grateful shelter in this cave on a bad day when doing 10 tours training. The reason it's known as Chartist Cave is because in 1839 the political movement, the Chartists, made and stockpiled weapons here prior to their march on the city of Newport in November of that year, and there is this plaque on the side of the cave to mark that. The People's Charter was presented to Parliament in 1838, demanding things that we take for granted now: secret ballot, universal suffrage, salaries for MPs so that people other than the propertied rich could be elected to Parliament. It was rejected, of course. Why would Parliament give away their powers? And that caused an awful lot of unrest around the country and the growth of the Chartist movement. In 1839, the Welsh Chartists made and stockpiled weapons here in Chartist Cave, and in November of that year they marched on the town of Newport. They surrounded the mayoralty, there were soldiers guarding it, there were shots fired, a number of people were killed. The leader, John Frost, and his confederates were rounded up and were tried for treason. They were eventually sentenced to be hanged, drawn and quartered, the last people in this country to receive that sentence, but it was commuted in the end to transportation. It's partly due to their efforts that we now have the rights that we do. Heading eastward on the Cambrian Way now. Nice easy path, and as you walk on a good visibility day, you've got the whole panoply of the Black Mountains spread out in front of you. From right to left, Sugarloaf, Crugmar, Pencaracalch, Penachmar, Pennygaderfar and Wynfach. Over there is a feature called Sheep Shelter. It's on the Ordnance Survey map. All it is a gap in the crag where the sheep hide from bad weather in the winter. But there's nothing else on the plateau, so we set the scouts to look for it when we're teaching navigation, and most of them fail to find it. And that is why this barren, featureless plateau is such an excellent place to bring young people and teach them how to navigate. It's a mark of how featureless this area is that I always remember this shelter, because it's the only thing to remember along this part of the Cambrian Way. But in my ongoing series of shelters with a view, it's got a case. It's obviously not the best one, but it does have a view. I'm at the trig point now. No name on the map, but it is the high point of Llangynidr. So, Llangynidr, 541 metres. The Llangynidr plateau itself may be featureless, but the area around it most certainly isn't. From Sugarloaf in the east, right across the Black Mountains, and then further west, Corndee and Penavon, and the western Bannau. Absolutely breathtaking view from here. Sugarloaf and Skirrid away to the east. Penachmar in the foreground there, Pennygalerfar in the background. This is a great example of a shake hole. We've covered them before on the channel, but worth rehashing it because there are a lot of them here. Shake holes are formed when the roofs of underground caverns fall in and all the ground above funnels down into the hole that's made. So what that means is there's a system of caves under this plateau, and it must be quite extensive because there are shake holes all over it. A lot of them are big enough to deserve the legend shake hole on the map. A lot of the others are just marked with contours or with boundary circles. And they are extremely useful in navigation tuition. "20 yards along the path, another one, slightly smaller. And then I can see there's another one just over there. And beyond the ponies, likely another one too. There are literally hundreds of them here. Do we want to look at shake holes though when we've got ponies to look at? Believe it or not, this road, the B4560, comes in useful. It cuts right down in between Llangynidr and Llangattock. So right down the middle of the plateau. You're always going to know which side of it you're on, and in bad visibility, if all else fails, you can go due west or due east, and at some point you'll bump into it and be able to find your way back to the car park. I've crossed the road now, so I'm on Llangattock, and the shake holes are getting deeper and rockier. Now I'm looking for something specific this side. Up the way there, something we often set the scouts to find when we bring them here. It's on the map. It's the only building for miles around. It's actually a disused army grenade range. I found what I'm looking for. Normally there would be a stream running down this gully. Just goes to show how dry it's been lately. And the stream would be running down into that. This is the Llangynidr and Llangattock. It's a swallow hole. Swallow holes made the same way as shake holes, underground caves whose roofs fall in. The difference is, swallow hole is where the above ground section happens to have a stream running over it. And what then happens is that the stream falls down into the hole and is swallowed, hence swallow hole. It is, as far as I'm aware, the only one in the area with a name, and is therefore almost certainly the biggest. There is obvious evidence of work having been done in the bottom there, and my research into this feature revealed to me that there is a species of person called cave diggers who voluntarily go down into caves, often underwater, and try to connect them with other caves. Now, caving has always struck me as a weird thing to want to do, being under millions of tons of rock. Cave digging, being under millions of tons of rock and then digging away at what's holding it up. That one I can't work out. But each to their own. Coming back up to the car park now, and it reminds me just what a great view the car park itself has. No other hills in the way, you can see all the Black Mountains. The Llangynidr and Llangattock walk. I was very tempted to give that an 8 on the difficulty scale. It's pretty hard underfoot in some places, and realistically you do need some navigation chops to be able to find your way around because it is a little bit featureless. However, I've stuck with a 7. It's not that long, there are no steep climbs, there's no real scrambling. A bit of familiarity with moorland walking will certainly help you if you want to take it on though. Was it a good walk? The Scouts never think so. One of our other walking leaders describes it every time we come here as, well, I'll paraphrase him because it's a family show, as a hole. Hi if you're watching, Steve. I think it's somewhere in between. I've actually had a really good walk today. Okay, the area itself might be a bit featureless, but it's got a couple of points of interest. But really, the thing about it is the view you get of the beacons. All the better for being that little bit offset from the beacons themselves so that you can see the whole range. And it's worth coming up here just to look at that as long as you come up on a nice day. Granted, I've chosen it at its best. I've come on a beautiful day in the summer. Normally when I subject the Scouts to it, it's the second weekend or the first weekend of February. So it's not surprising that it's been nicer today. But there is a nice walk here for somebody who's used to walking in these conditions. All maps and 3D fly-throughs provided by kind permission of Ordnance Survey through their excellent OS Online application. Big thanks also for all music used in this video to mixkit.co and upbeat.io. Specific song and artist credits can be found in the comments. These videos are designed to show you around the routes I walk in case you're considering doing them yourself. They are not designed to be any kind of hill walking training or guidance. If you need hill walking skills, obtain them in person from a reputable, qualified provider. Please don't attempt these walks without appropriate levels of fitness and equipment. If you don't have the required levels of knowledge and experience, only undertake them accompanied by somebody who does. You can find out more about me and my background and experience at my website paulperambulates.co.uk. I hope you enjoyed this episode of Paul Perambulates. If you did, please subscribe and share.